Hello! I have returned to do this again. I haven't been able to for quite some time because the guy above me has been doing a lot of work on his place, and it's been driving me insane. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody's here anymore. I don't know if anybody wants to be. I got my headphones on. Hey, buddy, I got my headphones on just in case if it's too loud in the real world where there's banging and shit. You know, I guess go for it. Let me know and we'll explode. But as it is, we're going to do some smooth piano jazz today. This is who we are now. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh no, my split. I gotta load my split. All right, there we go. Okay. Go. The galaxy egg. I mean, listen, I accept being wrong from time to time. But when it comes to a Reese's egg, argument, I brook none. Nope, wrong. The two were unfamiliar is now the wrong word. The words play was unfun. The joke not registering. Not registered. Didn't register. Neither were the type to enjoy this body from a lady on account of any number of reasons. For the reason that humor requires tension, release, and a woman speaking of sex only increased the tension that drove them. Now, I will admit that British chocolate, on account of it being real, tends to be better. But on the other hand, Reese's eggs are made out of the right chemicals to make me feel good. Like I assume some sort of antidepressant is put into the formula. It would make sense. They put together her intentions to manipulate. They clamped down on their desire. All of their data points drove them to believe she was a cop. She was a cop. Okay. You're Molly. But who are you, Molly? I don't believe that story. Suspicious. Whoops. Suspicious bullshit. Fucking Columbo over here. One more thing. Fuck off. You guys turned quick. These two are not good dudes. Both of them overly online edgelords. He needs my help. Of course he does. He's not your boyfriend. Ex or whatever. So why is he so important to you? If he's a murderer. Jesus Christ, Jordan. He's looking at a lot of law and order shit. 2 counts of reckless endangerment. Manslaughter, at least. Probably murder, too. Done. Change Molly's attitude towards their pop culture references. The way of the coddled rich. The way of the coddled, rich, only child. Whew, let's do that. Interactions with others existed only to obtain. And once the chance passed unfulfilled, annoyance and lashing out would follow, inevitably follow. Always follow, inevitably follow. She begins again. Could you let me finish? I hate being interrupted. She does. Especially by misogynists like you. Fine, whatever, bitch. We're out of here. course not. Shit. We have. Physical fucking money, we could drop it dramatically on the bar and bounce. Now we have to fucking small talk while the check is No, that's trash. Now we have to make fucking... Get the fuck out of here. Who talks like that? Shit. We have to close out. We don't need... Nobody says before we can go. That's not a human being who's frustrated and angry. We have to close out. Short sentences. Fury. If you had physical fucking money... We could drop it on the bar and bounce. We could drop it and bounce. We could drop it and bounce. Now what? Small talk? Tell her to go. We were here first. And then what? If she doesn't go, what? Are we going to call the cops? Are we going to ignore her until she goes away? What if she doesn't go? I don't know. Fucking violence, I guess. Violence. Violence. Seriously. Yeah. What's that supposed to mean? What's that supposed to mean? You know what it means. Listen, rich bitch. You're not getting what you want. Just go. Stop trying to bully us. recognized the tantrum brewing. Being called a bitch in public was a pretty good sign when the word most often stayed away from. Being called a bitch in public was a pretty good sign. Yeah, done. That's the word. You know that. She had no time for the emotional roller coaster of a frustrated boy. Frustrated juvenile male. Banished to frustrated juvenile male. She moved to cut him off. Fine. Whatever. I'll pay you. Jesus Christ. Thank you. Thank you. They said simultaneously. How do I find him? His two best friends. He began saying the name Teresa until he remembered their chosen name. Trin and Khan. They're probably still in Topeka. And that is the Jesus versus Jedi scene. I have to blow my nose real quick. Crazy. Khan had never viewed. Khan never looked in the mirror and saw a leader, nor did he see a follower. He saw something else. A duo, Trin and Khan. They did things together. No leader, no follower. They joined no groups. They were unto themselves. Then Rade entered. And left. Entered and left. Leading, leader, follower, absentee. Peer, the first and only. They walked separate paths. Separate paths together. Now looking at the pocked, half awake, half asleep, escaped inmates. They understood what they needed to do was provide the bridge and lead them across. Both what goes across both bridge and driver, both method and the path and the pathfinder. They were still in. And couldn't find their way out alone. Simply leaving the physical was not enough to free the mental. Wherever they stood on Earth, so long as their minds were in the taupe halls, shackled to cells made of light comforts. An event was necessary. A disembarkation, an exit of some kind, or a barrier from the present to the past. For this first time, Khan looked in the mirror, didn't see Trin. Didn't see Rade. Only himself, and who only themself, Jesus, only themself and who they can rely on. the part they were to play. Was to be their own. Of their own casting. Their own casting. They chose leader. They chose to lead the inmates out. Where? Where though? Where though? Where actually is out? What we see around us is America, and America is thoroughly in. We're in the goddamn Midwest with 4 flags waving the stars and stripes. How do I lead them out if there's no out? If there's only another Applebee's. Another Applebee's. Khan did have Michael. Michael at least had a car. And that's a start. They didn't have money, though, which was a stop. And that's a stop. And that's a stop. Almost 40 people to not just lead to the imagined promised land, but more immediately to feed. Plates with food were not readily available. But more immediately to feed. Plates with food were not readily available without something to exchange. Because this was Rade's apartment, not that of perhaps of anyone else. Because this was Rade's apartment, we don't need to have any other descriptors other than it is Rade's apartment. So that way we tell you that the descriptor itself is Rade's apartment. Because this was Rade's apartment, there were no objects to... no necks to be nicked. Only a coffee, only an espresso machine from the late 70s, gifted to him by his grandmother upon her passing. Gifted to him by his grandmother. We don't need to point out that she's dead. She's dead. You know she's dead. Maybe he killed her. You don't know if she did or didn't. You'll never know. I won't tell you. Sell the car? No. The car was the start. Start there. What can we use a car for to get money to feed 40 people fast? Took no time at all for Khan to land on the obvious answer. Too many crimes must be committed with desire and intent for it to be crime. When one is driven to crime by the circumstances of cruelty, that's not crime so much as desperation. The downside of this train of thought is that it winds up with people avoiding the truth. Every crime is desperate, and everyone can be driven to desperation, and everyone criminals are everyone. The downside of this how easy to judge a criminal if they want to commit crime. How hard to remember that every crime, if they want to commit a crime, how hard to remember that every crime is desperate and everyone can be driven to desperation and criminals are everyone. Morning. We're doing good today. Started a little early. Doing good. How easy to judge a criminal if they want to commit a crime. Not a question mark, semicolon. How hard to remember that every crime is desperate and every man, woman, child, every person can be driven to desperation, and criminals are everyone. How easy to judge a criminal if they want to commit crime. How hard to remember that every crime is desperate. Every person can be driven to desperation. And criminals are us. Are we? Are we all? There's your anastrophe of the day. That acknowledged. Once the first line is crossed, it's a matter of inertia. Criminals are us. That's honestly why we can't. That's why we have to say criminals are we all, because if you say criminals are us, you're done. You're done. Get out of here. You're done, kid. Start from the beginning. It's the first line is crossed. It's a matter of inertia. One who commits a crime is a criminal. Doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000,000. Might as well get your money's worth. Might as well get their money's worth. And they as far as an ellipsis for trailing off or being interrupted, I prefer just a simple dash for interruption, and not a long one either, like a short dash cut to another short dash, so it feels like a jump cut. You know, there's nothing for the eyes to see before it cuts right down. See, and an ellipsis, because there's more time to register, and even in your own mind after reading the ellipsis, you can sense a like expectant pause. So for me, an ellipsis should have an expectation of lengthy pause that has a built-in kind of anticipation. But like a tense anticipation, an almost anxious anticipation. Whereas a quick dash is like, I want, hey! Like that. I get it. The thing about an ellipsis and a dash and all of these, for me anyways, all of them are less about clarity in terms of sentence structure and all of those things. I can write a clear sentence if I fucking want to. I don't need your help or your ability to understand it. For me, punctuation should also be considered as a like rhythm, notes. Like this should also be a measure. You know, like there is a rest, and sometimes I've considered putting like rests or something like that inside of a prose, just to see if maybe that would alter that. But it's just a distraction. You just can't put it on a bar. It would be nice. It would be nice if I could pull it off, but alas, I am weak. And they both aided and at the very, very, very least, they were abettors. If you're going to find yourself in a RICO case, might as well be at the top. In the most primal terms, fuck it. Michael was taken aback by the frenetic energy Khan brought. Taken aback by the newly frenetic energy that coursed through Khan, that burst from Khan. The man was waiting for an espresso, decades in the making, to combine this with an overabundance of outside energy, was to create the conditions necessary to explode, create the conditions required for an explosion. Michael was taken aback by the newly frenetic energy. Michael, taken aback by the newly frenetic energy that burst from Khan. He waited for an espresso, decades in the making. Combining the two created the conditions for a stormy morning. Khan was struck by purpose, which kept keeping him from remembering that, keeping them. God damn it, I'm not using pronouns for Michael. Jesus, Khan was struck by purpose, keeping them from remembering that they didn't know anyone. They were unable to view them as more than pieces, more than pieces of the coming tide, more than waves in the coming tide. Blocking them. They forgot. They forgot the people. They were unable to view them as anything more than waves in the coming tide. Unable to move them as more than anything. Michael was a person that needed coffee, not a wave. Michael was a guy that needed coffee, not a wave. The two share a common desire for destruction, though. I am, what would I say? I contain double-tudes. Michael was a guy that needed coffee, not a wave. Though the two share a common desire for destruction. The two do share a common desire for destruction, though. Though they shared a common mindless destruction, though they shared a common apathy for destruction. Though the two shared a common apathy for obstructions. He had not suddenly been overtaken with purpose. He was riding along as he did. Life was moving. He was never still. He was already alive. Life is movement. Life is moving. He is never still. He is always purpose. No, that's stupid. Dumb. Dumb! Foolish. He had not suddenly been overtaken with purpose. Or more accurately, his purpose was clear, small, and black in a cup. Hot, black, and in a large cup. He needed no concept of. He needed nothing beyond that. Black. Hot, black, and an large. His purpose was simple. The practical result of their interaction was such that Khan made noises and Michael did his very best to avoid them. Frenchman speaking Dutch to an Eritrean prince. A silent movie with no title cards and no plot. Khan was surprised by what they viewed as pure agreement. No pushback at all. Not even to the suggestion that Michael should bring more than one of his guns from home. When Khan asked if he had any guns, Michael nodded. When Khan asked if he could bring them from home, he nodded. When asked how often he went shooting, Michael nodded. asked what time it was. Michael nodded. The hell just happened? Oh, god damn it. Michael nodded. Khan chose to ignore the last one. And became still more excited at the next step in their quest for money. For fish and loaves. Michael, however, had no guns. The work is happening again. I don't know if anybody, I hope you can't hear it, but I could just barely make it out, and I thought it was Fanny snoring, and I was like, that's too loud. But no, it's okay. Couldn't bring them from anywhere. Never went shooting, and had no idea what time it was. An unfortunate choice, as Michael had no guns. Couldn't bring them from anywhere. Never went shooting and had no idea what time it was. Good news. Simply unable to respond with any other gestures. They were what excited them most was when Michael used his gesture at Khan's final question. Do you want to rob a bank? So this is the part that we reached in the book where what's his face? Rade, Trin, they're separating off on their own thing. After Rade has killed Cindy, he is going on his little journey with Trin. The two of them together can kind of heal each other, I suppose. Then Khan and Michael are going on their journey together, and their journey is more focused on the people that they're kind of helping. And in the meantime, Molly is searching for all of them. Those are our 5. That's our adventuring party, if you will. And so this little section has Rade and Trin deciding they have to rob a bank. And then independently, Khan and Michael deciding they have to rob a bank. Which, I don't know. Fine. If you don't like it, that's up to you. That's up to you. I will say if you don't like that, I think you're a loser. But, it's not for me to judge. Losers. I'm so sorry. All right. So let's start from the last bit because I didn't actually read the... So let's read some... Let's do some big time reading. You don't get it. Obviously I don't get it. Molly was in a St. Louis towny bar listening to 2 adult men bicker about Star Wars for the millionth time. When Obi-Wan says only the Sith deal in absolutes, he's demonstrating that he doesn't deal in absolutes by saying in absolute terms that only the Sith deal in absolutes. If Obi-Wan thought there were no absolutes, he would be hypocritical. If there aren't absolutes, then there are. If there are absolutes, then there aren't. It's not a paragraph. It's not a paradox. It's that the language we learned was created by people who understood concepts they understood, not ones they didn't. And thus language will always be insufficient without constant updates. The Jedi Order fell because George Lucas didn't understand Buddhism, not because of something inherently false about their stated philosophy. Windu said that Jedi bring people to justice through the system, but when he goes to demonstrate this in practice, he tries to chop off the head of the Prime Minister. If absolutes did exist, Windu wouldn't have decided that justice required immediate action. By virtue of acknowledging that sometimes something needs to happen and other times other things need to happen, it is not inherently hypocritical for the Jedi to argue that there are no absolutes. Their problem is in having an unwritten code at the same time as they have a written code. You can have one or the other, but imagine a Jedi Order with a written code that sometimes do stuff and other times do other stuff. You're not getting a Darth Vader from that. Think about it. Anakin's downfall would never have happened if the Jedi said, hey, you can fuck sometimes. Who cares about the moral dilemma behind whether or not there are any absolutes if it all goes away if you just let people fuck sometimes? You can't tell people not to fuck is the real lesson behind the Skywalker saga. If the Force is the will of the universe made manifest, then 98% of it is about fucking. What about midichlorians? God, I hate midichlorians. But I'm not directly talking about Star Wars as a vision of George Lucas. Whatever he thinks he's saying doesn't matter. I'm using a world you're familiar with, not our own, to discuss problems you're familiar with without pissing everybody off, and or to explain concepts that require examples in action and cannot be described by words alone. Now, if I just said that the truth of Buddhism is sometimes do this stuff and sometimes don't, that really isn't satisfying, is it? In Star Wars, you get laser swords. It's a parable. What you're saying is Jesus had a high midichlorian count. Space Jesus would have to, unless God and the Force aren't on the same page, which would be very interesting, if the creator and the will of creation itself were at odds. So you're saying the Force is the devil. Jesus didn't have Force powers. He had a whole different moveset, right? No mind control, no lightning. He does have distance healing, transmogrification powers we don't know the full extent of. Right. If he can turn water into wine, that's probably not all he can do. He could probably turn anything into anything. Wait, are we pitting Jesus against a Jedi in a fight? I think we are, yeah. All of this went past and through Molly like she were a Force ghost, and she couldn't have given less of a shit. She was fake listening because the overly talkative one, she'd been told, knew the arsonist and that they were both from Lincoln, and that he had a picture to prove it. Word of stuff like that gets around. Word gets around fast. Don't say words of stuff. Word of stuff. Boo! Boo! Word gets around fast when King Robes offers a reward on KRNN. I think we all know what that stands for. King Robes News Network. Interesting. Interesting question. Interesting question if the Jedi Order could be anything other than, even if it's not explicit, George Lucas's concept of the Buddhist sage, the samurai warrior. I mean, he stole it from. Okay, so he stole it from, that one guy, Japanese, really good filmmaker, Rashomon. Boy, old man. We got to establish some rules then. Like what? Okay, does Jesus resurrect every time? Does all of Jesus resurrect? He still has the holes, right? So you got to figure if Jesus gets Ponda Baba'd, that hand ain't coming back. If the Jedi cuts him in half, what's coming back, top or bottom? Oh man, what a great religion we could have had if only the bottom half of the resurrection was true. Or if it was just his head, like Krang. How about water walking? Does he stand on the water, altering his density, or is he actually flying and did the water thing to avoid freaking everybody out? I mean, I doubt the apostles could have handled a flying guy. Okay, I say we give him flight. He's got to have an advantage. The Jedi have force jump but can't hover. Okay, he flies. He can turn any liquid into any other liquid. Water to wine, wine to liquid nitrogen? Could he turn your blood into acid like Alien? How about that? Is lava a liquid? He flies and he's a waterbender. Okay, he's got magic defense but no physical defense. Not important against Jedi. There's no physical defense against a lightsaber. How about impact damage from a force push? How about impact damage from the force push? Mental psychic attack falls under magic defense. He's a ranged fighter. Yes, he has to fly to avoid lightsabers, pull liquid from water sources, transform it into liquid nitrogen. Boom, instant freeze. Okay. Jedi super jump avoids the liquid nitrogen. Force pull Jesus to the ground. Impact knocks him out. Lightsaber, coup de grace. If he can walk on water, he can land gently. Doesn't count. Fine. Last second, he stops his momentum or whatever. No damage. Doesn't matter. Force accelerate for the Jedi. Still cut his head off. Molly's connection to her father's Americanized version of Christianity was non-existent. He would have gagged if he heard Jesus disrespected in this way. Herself, she just rolled her eyes at the dumb nerds wasting their and her time. Whether it's Jedi versus Jesus or Jesus versus the devil, it's all pretend nonsense wasting everybody's time. She decided she had no more time to waste. Excuse me, can I interrupt? I heard you know about the fire guy who burnt the government building. I'm looking for him. I've been looking for months, actually, before this mess even started. He's my boyfriend. Rade's your boyfriend. At the very least, Molly thought, I've learned two things already. Rade is his name, and I can bluff my way through fucking anything. And that nerds love showing off what they know, even especially when they shouldn't. Well, he's not currently my boyfriend, so I guess he's my ex. But when I heard about the place where he's staying burning down, I was terrified he was in there. But, to be honest, I kind of knew it was him all along. He hated that place. Everybody hates that place. What? I thought it was pretty nice when I went to visit. People who visit thinks it's nice. People who stay don't think it's nice. People who stay don't think it's nice. It's not supposed to be a prison. Ha! While Molly spoke to Rade's friend, his arguing partner's hackles rose. He didn't trust her for rational and irrational reasons both. He didn't regularly trust women as a rule, though he never admitted it aloud, and he hated snitches. This lady, who could be anyone, was asking snitch questions. He felt sensitive to the power imbalance between them. He physically twitched until he could take no more. He injected himself. What's your name, lady? You ain't from Nebraska. How did you know this dude? That's a good point. I don't know if Rade ever left Nebraska. If he did, he never told me about it. How did you meet? How'd you start dating? He definitely never told me about any dates he went on. My name is Molly. I'm from New York, yes, but I was sent to Lincoln for work. I've lived around for a few years. Rade and I had a thing, didn't have a thing, had a type of thing. We fell in love, but not more. He was always inside. The wordplay was unfun. The joke didn't register. Neither were the type to enjoy this bawdiness from a lady for the reason that humor requires tension release, and a woman speaking of sex only increased the tension that drove them. When they put together her intentions to manipulate, they clamped down on their desires. All of their data points drove them to believe she was a cop. Okay, you're Molly, but who are you, Molly? I don't believe that story. Sounds like bullshit. Suspicious bullshit. Fucking Columbo over here. One more thing. Fuck off. You guys turn quick. Listen, he murdered a woman in Topeka. I want to get him before the cops do, and then we can figure something out. I don't know what, but he needs my help. He's not your boyfriend, ex, or whatever. So why is he so important to you? If he's a murderer, they're going to find him and you. It doesn't make sense for you to look for him unless you're trying to make sure he gets caught. And he's looking at a lot of Law and Order shit. 2 counts of reckless endangerment, manslaughter at least, probably murder too. Dun dun. Failing to bluff her way through anything changed Molly's attitude towards their pop culture references. In the way of the coddled, rich, only child, interaction with others existed only to obtain. And once the chance passed, unfulfilled annoyance and lashing out inevitably follow. Could you let me finish? I hate being interrupted, especially by misogynists like you. Fine, whatever, bitch. We're out of here. Do you have cash? No. How do I do that? Okay, so now we get rid of this. Here's what I have to do. He's now talking to his friend. So we need to put in here. Fine, whatever, bitch. He turned to his friend. The words spoken might well have been a gunshot in his mind. A gunshot because to him she had died. Do you have cash? Of course not. Shit, we have to close out. If you had physical fucking money, we could drop it and bounce. Now what? Small talk? Tell her to go. We were here first. And then what? If she doesn't go, what are we going to call the cops? Are we going to ignore her until she goes away? What if she doesn't go? I don't know. Fucking violence, I guess? Violence? Violence. Seriously. Yeah, why not? This is America. What's that supposed to mean? You know what it means. Listen, rich bitch, you're not getting what you want. Just go. Stop trying to bully us. Yeah, why not? This is America. Now Molly gets back in the... Molly, See, this is the problem with my terrible dialogue habits, is that eventually I do get into situations where I have to suck it up, bite my pride, and tell you who's talking. Molly. Could stand to be ignored no longer. What's that supposed to mean? You know what it means. Listen, rich bitch, you're not getting what you want. Just go. Stop trying to bully us. Molly recognized the tantrum brewing. Being called a bitch in public was a pretty good sign. She had no time for the emotional roller coaster of a frustrated juvenile male. Sexually unfulfilled. Unproductive. Juvenile male. Productive. Juvenile male. She moved to cut him off. Yeah, I know. I know that people, I mean, they've done study after study that people don't even read, like, he said, she said. And while that's probably the correct argument, and you should put them in there to be a good, I don't know, person who's filled with love and hope or whatever. But part of why I do it is that I want you to work for it. And since I'm not writing this in the hopes that like people will, I don't even know if I'm writing it in the hopes that people will read it. But since I'm writing it the way I'm writing it, that means I have the luxury of saying stuff like that. You know, like, sure, if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you don't want to read it, you don't want to read it. But there's reward in every... I try and put reward in every single thing. So if you put yourself in there and you become part of it, there's a constant motion and a constant reward system that I want. But that also means that, you know, like any video game or whatever, you know, in order to get the reward, you have to get into the gameplay loop. There you go. Fine, whatever. I'll pay you. Thank you. How do I find him? His two best friends. He began saying the name Teresa until he remembered their chosen name. Trin and Khan. They're probably in Topeka. I don't have to let you know what their dead name is. At the same time, I'm trying to put a characterization into these two that's different. By having him think immediately of their dead name and then stop from saying it. I don't know if that's going to, unless I make that clear, I don't know if that's going to register as being like, this is part of the creation and that this is just, I don't know. You know, like my wife is nearly, you know, she's got several friends from college who have transitioned or have chosen a different name. And when you're remembering your lives together, you're remembering them as they were. And so if you're putting together a memory, it can be very easy to instinctively dead name them. And a sign of respect is that, you know, if you fail, you care. If you fail, you care. And you try not to fail. All right. Khan never looked in the mirror and saw a leader, nor did he see a follower. He saw something else, a duo, Trin and Khan. They did things together, no leader, no follower. They joined no groups, they were unto themselves. Then Rade entered and left, leader, follower, absentee, peer, the first and only. They walked separate paths together, now looking at the pocked, half-awake, half-asleep, escaped inmates. They understood what they needed to do was provide the bridge and lead them across. The path and the pathfinder. They were still in and couldn't find their way out alone. Simply leaving the physical was not enough. Wherever they stood on Earth, so long as their minds were in the taupe halls, shackled to cells made of light comforts, they were there. An event was necessary, a disembarkation, an exit of some kind, or a barrier from the present to the past. For this first time, Khan looked in the mirror, didn't see Trin, didn't see Rade, only themselves and who they can rely on. It's themselves. The part they were to play was to be of their own casting. They chose leader. They chose to lead the inmates out. Where? Where, though? Where actually is out? What we see around us is America, and America is thoroughly in. We're in the goddamn Midwest, with 4 flags waving the stars and stripes. How do I lead them out if there's no out? If there's only another Applebee's? Khan did have Michael. Michael at least had a car, and that's a start. They didn't have money, though, and that's a stop. Almost 40 people to not just lead to the imagined promised land, but, more immediately, to feed. So, I get that that's maybe an annoying thing, but to me, immediately to feed is the correct... Immediately to feed. Plates with food were not readily available without something to exchange. Because this was Rade's apartment, there were no objects to pawn, no knacks to be nicked, only an espresso machine from the late 70s gifted to him by his grandmother. Sell the car? No. The car was the start. Start there. What can we use a car for? What can we use a car for to get money to feed 40 people fast? Feed 40 people fast. It took no time at all for Khan to land on the obvious answer. To many, crimes must be committed with desire and intent for crime to be committed. For crime to be committed. When one is driven to crime by the circumstances of cruelty, that's not a crime so much as desperation. How easy to judge a criminal if they want to commit crime. How hard to remember that every crime is desperate. Every person can be driven to desperation, and criminals are we all. That acknowledged, once that first line is crossed, it's a matter of inertia. If one who commits a crime is a criminal, doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000,000, might as well get their money's worth. And at the very, very, very least, they were already abettors. If you're going to find yourself in a RICO case, might as well be at the top. In the most primal terms, fuck it. Michael, taken aback by the newly frenetic energy that burst from Khan, he waited for an espresso, decades in the making, combining the two... Don't need he. Michael waited for an espresso, decades in the making. Combining the two created conditions for a stormy morning. Combining the two like a cold, like fronts hot and cold, created conditions for a stormy morning. Khan was struck by purpose. They forgot the people. They were unable to view them as more than waves in the coming tide. Michael was a guy that needed coffee. Michael was a people that needed coffee, not a wave, though the two shared apathy for obstructions. Though they shared apathy. Person that needed coffee, not a wave, though they shared apathy for obstructions. He had not suddenly been overtaken with purpose, or, more accurately, his purpose was simple, hot, black, and in a large cup. He needed nothing beyond that. The practical result of their interaction was such that Khan made noises and Michael did his very best to avoid them. A Frenchman speaking Dutch to an Eritrean prince. A silent movie with no title cards and no plot. Khan was surprised by what they viewed as pure agreement. No pushback at all. When Khan asked if he had any guns, Michael nodded. When Khan asked if he could bring them from home, he nodded. When Khan asked how often he went shooting, Michael nodded. When Khan asked what time it was, Michael nodded. Khan chose to ignore the last one and became still more excited at the next step in their quest for fish and loaves. An unfortunate choice, as Michael had no guns, couldn't bring them from anywhere, never went shooting, and had no idea what time it was. He was simply unable to respond with any other gestures. What excited them most was Michael used his gesture at Khan's final question. Do you want to rob a bank? He had not suddenly where? Son of a bitch. Had not suddenly. Right. Khan had been struck by. You're right. He had not struck by purpose. Purpose had not struck him. Purpose had not struck him. Purpose had not struck him. Or more accurately, his purpose was simple, hot, black, and alert. Thank you. Good catch. Good catch. Molly was unused to struggle. She had patience for 3. She asks nice, not nice, and then bribes. Simple progression. And then she bribes. Yeah, we'll use a she. She asks nice, not nice, and then she bribes. Yeah, that's good. Bribes. Bribes is a great word. No, you're good. You're good. It's a good catch because it's just better language. It's just better writing. Although, again, I'm still going to go over this one more time, and it's going to be bloody. It's going to be bloody. The first 2 are the time consumers. But she loved a sail. The third was short. Hmm. The third was a bribe because she really only had patience for 2. 3 was the finishing move. More complicated to execute. Blackmail for life. But like life could be made shorter too. That Molly tried to leave with King Robes. King Robes. That Molly tried to leave with King Robes. Once he found out, I have to go to the bathroom. I don't know if I should count that on my speedrun time. Or maybe I should have it always running in the background. Am I not always writing a book? That was more King Robe's prerogative. Though. She tried to keep herself away. And here she was at 3, still unable to obtain the beguiling Rade. Her frustration, not frustration, she was losing interest. At the same rate she was increasing. Her interest decreased at the same rate. The same rate as her rage increased. Interest decreased as her rage increased. Proportionate to her rate. No, her interest decreased as her rage increased. That's fine. In this case, she had no sympathy for the arguing duo. Their time as millionaires their time as millionaires was as long as it took for King Robes to check her bank account. Check her bank account to took for King Robes to check his email alerts. Check his email. Which could be anywhere from 10 days to 10 years, but they would not get their 70. Could be anywhere from 5 days to 5 years. I don't want to use 10 3 times. 5 days to 5 years, but they would not get their 70. Here she was On her third attempt, still unable to obtain the beguiling Rade, her interest decreased as her rage increased. She wanted to quit, and she wanted to hit it and quit it, man. That's what she wanted. Can I hit it and quit it? I don't think I can pull that off. I don't have the gall to pull that off. I don't have the gall. I just don't. I have gall that Rome wants to conquer, but I don't have that much gall. She dreamt of bribing God himself to shorten this holy pursuit. I could do the God. She dreamt of bribing God himself. It's supposed to be a bit, but I also don't want to do God himself. She dreamt of bribing God to shorten this holy pursuit. Which is, that's what I'm trying to communicate here, is that perfect understanding of the way that these people work. I think it's good. All right, this is literally, it's got to be too much. I got to change the music. This is absurd. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we write a completely different book now. She had never gone this long without she had never gone this long without quitting. The unfamiliar territory gave her a headache. The First Seventh Bank of Greater Lincoln was empty of customers, but full of half-dazed employees. An all-hands meeting was greeted Molly. Collared polo shirts. Below the knee skirts and well-shined shoes ignored her presence, assuming she was just another employee, albeit the worst dressed. Least professionally dressed. Least professionally dressed. The pin that said bank manager was in the crowd. I don't know if you've gotten this or not, but Synecdoche is a great way to remove the humanity from people and reduce them to nothing more than their jobs. The speaker with the shiniest shoes. The shiniest shoes spoke is what I'm looking for. The shiniest shoes were the speaker. And the bright gold pin and the bright gold pin was as strong as any, was as loud as any holy man's hat. It spoke. Head regional manager, Midwest. We understand that yesterday was a traumatic experience. Executives have approved a number of counseling options. All of you will receive 50% off any of these sponsored treatments. We hope you take advantage. That said, we've received a startling number of requests for time off. And unfortunately, we're going to need everyone here now more than ever. The majority of assembled employees shared an audible groan. The others judged them for lack of dedication. Yes, yes. But if we approved your time off requests, we would be setting a bad precedent, bad example to the other regions. Imagine if a robbery happens in another bank. Wouldn't you be inspired if all of their employees went right back to work as if nothing had happened at all. You could be that inspiration. All of you will be that inspiration. Besides, it's not like you'll be better off at home living in fear. That's not who we are at First Seventh. We're the Midwest, god damn it. Apologies for my language. But I will not have some Los Angeles branch being the inspiration. I love corporate talk. Being the inspiration that gets corporate attention. We're the backbone of America. Let's act like it. Think about this. Think about how inspiring it would be if none of you used... Oh no, he's having a great life. Think about how inspiring it'd be if none of you used the discounts we've offered, saving so much money for the company. So while you can sign up for 15-minute sessions with our rent a counselor, every session costs us. Let me check on that real quick. Oh yeah. Let me check on that real quick. Yeah. That's what I thought. $16 per. Think about the savings. If we just send him home right now. Are you with me? The executive applauded quickly. Applauded his own speech. Joined by the joined reluctantly by the group. The manager waved graciously to the counselor waiting in his office. signaling his services wouldn't be necessary. The employees never needed to know that this counselor was not so much a counselor as the manager's brother, as he was the manager's brother. Don't worry, if you do decide to find someone to talk to, the cost will be automatically deducted from your next, maybe last, who knows, paycheck. So you don't need so you can relax. No need to worry about the paperwork. Remember, tell everyone you can about the new tap to pay feature. We've brought lunch. He began applauding himself again, his smile repugnant. Disdain dripping from the corners. All right, now we'll open the floor for questions. Please feel free to ask anything. Feel free to ask anything. At First Seventh, we care about your mental health. The wisest employees knew the worst thing for their professional health, the worst disease, the worst the wisest employees knew that when it came to their professional health, the deadliest disease was asking questions. the worst variant. Good questions. Wisdom was not equally distributed, and so a couple hands were raised. Sir? Yes, please introduce yourself to the group. The teeth. The executive's teeth seemed to sharpen in front of them. Samira Patel. I was injured physically yesterday. I think I need to see a more than just a counselor. Will there be help from the corporation? If I need to see a doctor? The crowd gasped. They had not signed up to witness an execution. Samira Patel? That's a great question. We hadn't considered that at the home office. When I get back, I'll alert them to Samira Patel's questions, and I'm sure they'll make sure Samira Patel is taken care of. He gave a deadly wink. The employees bowed their heads in respect for the dead. He gave a wink. The employees bowed their heads in respect for the dead. Thank you, sir. Do you have an idea of when a decision or you know, my kids are excellent? Thank you. Thank you for your questions, everyone. Remember, tap to pay. He raised his arms in triumph. Mission accomplished. Banner waving proudly behind him. Waving patriotically. Behind him. Once again, he applauded his own speech. And was joined in full. At the very least, he was done. And was joined by the full assemblage. At the very least, he was done. Everyone enjoy lunch. Molly witnessed with disgust. The regional manager was unsubtle. She texted her dad. From his desk in the desk, King Robes roared for the name of the offender. Until he remembered that Molly was not above him. Her words were on the phone. He typed a response, but his fingers were but his fingers poorly spelled. Regnal Minoger. And begged for the man's home address to threaten his correctly spelled family. Hmm. Think I might have to stop there for today. My words aren't gooding. But we are at about 18,000 words, which puts us almost halfway done. How cool is that? Almost halfway done in only 10 hours. Oh. Pause. Save splits as. Okay. All right, so we're going to call that. And then I am going to see everybody tomorrow. I'm going to start doing this. I haven't been able to do it again because of the horrible noises up there, but we're going to do this tomorrow. Have fun. Have the fun rest of your day.